got a question for you. Is the new BMW i4 better than a Tesla Model 3? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. To do that, I'm going to compare their exterior designs, their interior designs. I'm going to see how practical they are. I'm going to check out their technology, and I'm going to wonder what the hell that bloody noise is. These are electric cars. They're supposed to be quiet, and we've got some blooming buzzsaw going on in the background. I'm obviously going to drive them as well. Yeah. And launch them, see how quick they are from 0 to 60 miles an hour. Because that matters with electric cars, and because I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching Carwow, and that's sort of what we do around here. Shut up!
Buying a new car? Then head to Carwow and my team will help you find your next car at a fair price. Carwow, your one-stop car buying comparison site.
Let's kick off this video by comparing these cars' designs, starting with the front. So the Tesla Model 3 came out in 2017 and it hasn't really changed that much. It's quite a simple, basic design. In fact, I think the front is a little bit fish-like. Can you see that? It's like my fish impression. The BMW is more like, yeah, that's my beaver impression. Yeah, with that big grille that it doesn't need because it's an electric car. Now this one has a more aggressive front end than the standard i4 because it's the M50 version, the sportier model. And I think overall, this car's front just has more presence than that one's. The i4 is less successful from the side, and that's because it's got this huge bonnet. Why does an electric car need a huge bonnet? I'll tell you why. It's because this electric car's platform is shared with the BMW 3 Series and 4 Series. So you have to be able to fit a straight 6 3-litre engine under here. Moving down the side, there's these little design treatments here to add a bit of flair. And look, you even get the door mirrors from the M3. Oh, I like the door handles as well. Quite cool. And look, frameless windows because it's a 4-door coupe. Not so sure about this though. Look, it's got a huge fuel filler cap. Why does it need that for these charging ports? Oh, I know. Once again, it's because it shares its platform with the 3 Series and the 4 Series, and you have to have enough space for filling up with petrol or diesel. Oh, alloy wheels. These 20s, they're quite nice. The range actually starts off on 18s, which aren't quite so nice. Now, moving to the Tesla, let's start off with the charging port because look, it's neatly integrated. Yeah, because this is a bespoke, built from the ground up electric car. And the profile shows that because you've got this very short bonnet. In fact, it's sort of teardrop shaped. It looks sleek, it looks sporty. And this one has the 20-inch alloy wheels because it's the performance model. Nice wheels, but even the entry-level 18-inch alloy wheel looks good. Now, one of the few changes that Tesla has made to this car over the years is this used to be silver and the door handles too, but now they're black because black is cooler. And they are quite cool handles, though they are a bit awkward to use sometimes when your hands are cold. And like with the BMW, frameless windows. One last thing to note on this is, look, the little sign here, RS Symons. So this is the guy that has lent us this car. He's got a channel called RS EV, and he does loads of videos on electric cars. Really interesting, you should check him out. Put a link to his channel in the description below. Go subscribe to him to say thank you for lending Carwow this car for this video. Finally then, from the rear, I think at first glance I prefer the BMW. It seems a little bit more interesting than the Tesla, though when you look closely it looks a bit fussy with all these little design elements and fake vents. This being the M50 has a sportier rear bumper, but when you look closely at it you've got these weird cutouts there which obviously are where exhausts would go if it was a internal combustion engine car. In fact, it seems like it needs quad exhaust pipes like an M3, and because it hasn't got them, I actually prefer the Tesla, which is just more honest, more simple. This is the performance version, and the only thing that sets it apart is this carbon fibre bootlit spoiler and this little red line under where it says dual motor. For the first time today I noticed this, look. If you look at the rear of the Model 3, the way you have the cabin slightly inboard of the bulbous rear arches, it sort of looks a bit like a Porsche 911. Can you see that? Ever so slightly. Here on the inside, the i4 feels very similar to a 4 Series or a 3 Series. The dash design is ever so slightly different, but it's all rather familiar, especially when you have like a normal gear selector, despite the fact this is an electric car. What is different though is this huge curved screen. I really like it. It's cool and the graphics are nice. It's fairly responsive as well. It runs BMW's latest iDrive system. You can move tiles around and all that kind of stuff, but really you're not going to be using the navigation or anything like that. You're just going to plug in your phone and use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and they both work brilliantly and you can run them wirelessly as well. The only reason you're going to use the infotainment system is if you need to do something with the car's settings or systems itself, and you just go into vehicle apps and then mess around with all the functions like live vehicle and all that kind of stuff like that. In terms of the seating position, yeah, it's nice and low. One thing about BMWs, they do have a good seating position. However, because of that big dash and bonnet, when you are low, you don't really get great forward visibility. You feel quite cocooned in the car. So that does make it feel sporty, as does this big centre console separating you from your passenger. Now, one thing I really like about this car is that as well as being able to see your map there, you can see some mappage there and your speed there. You can also get it with a heads-up display, and that's really good, so you can know about your speed and your directions without taking your eyes off the road. I like that. This particular car, being the M50, has some extra sportiness, like the M Sport steering wheel. We've also got the M flashes on the seat belts. And overall though, regardless of which model you go for, the quality inside the i4 is very, very good. I think BMW has the best perceived build quality of Audi, Mercedes and all the other premium manufacturers. It's got good storage as well, you know, it's big door bins. It just feels like a normal BMW apart from that new screen, really. Speaking of that new screen, one thing that does annoy me about it is that if you want to change the temperature, you have the slider rather than just using a knob like you can in the 3 Series. Although, of course, you can use voice commands. Set temperature to 20 degrees. It hasn't changed it. Crap. Here in the Tesla, there is no problems with voice commands. They work really well. For instance, set temperature to 25 degrees. There we go. Show map, showing the map on the screen. Now you can do everything, and because Tesla likes to have a laugh, there's some jokes as well. So I can open the charging port by saying open charging port, or I can say this and it'll still do it as well. Open bumhole. It's just open the charging port. In fact, there's loads of kind of crazy stuff in here. So you can actually set the car up to change the tone for the horn. You can choose lots of different kind of sounds for the horn. You can even choose farting sounds. You can have farting sounds when people sit on various seats. It's like a whoopee cushion. You can play games on this thing. There's so much stuff with this infotainment system. Now, it is a little bit distracting when you're driving because it's so huge and so bright, and it's a bit annoying that you have the speedo just up there. It'd be better if this car was available with a heads-up display, but it's not. Overall, though, the infotainment system is better than in the BMW. It's super responsive, very quick. You can control everything you want on the car through it. Bit annoying that you have to go through some menus to access some features, but really, because the voice commands are so good, you can just do most of it that way anyhow. Yeah, I know that when you want to set like the mirrors and things like that, you have to control it with these buttons here and the steering wheel in and out as well. So here we go. Look, I have to go into controls. Come on, where are you? Controls, steering wheel. Where are you? Steering. There we go. Now operating the steering wheel. Look. See, but once you set the car up, you set your profile, you just jump in and it'll be good to go as you want it. What's not so good as the BMW is the fact that you can't get it with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, though to be fair, you don't really need it. What you might need to do though is spend £10 a month, because that gives you the full internet connectivity. So you'll get satellite mapping for the navigation system rather than just the basic map. You then get traffic. You also get streaming for the inbuilt Spotify app, for the YouTube connectivity, and if you want to download movies and watch Netflix and stuff like that. Now you can actually connect your phone to it and use your phone's data, but it's just a little bit more clunky. What isn't clunky though is the interior design. It's just so simplistic and minimalist. It's so clean, so lovely. I also prefer to have the drive mode selector up here on the steering column rather than taking up space down here. Quality isn't as good as the BMW, just the materials aren't so expensive feeling. However, storage is better. Look, loads of storage under here. You got your cup holders there, loads of storage under there. I love the place for your mobile phone there, and it's wireless charging, and there's 2 of them as well. Also, the door bins are huge. The seating position is actually even better than the BMW. You sit low once again, but because the dash is low and the bonnet is low, the view you get forward is incredible, and that's one of my favourite things about the Tesla Model 3. Just this feeling of visibility that you get from the car. Another thing that's great is the fact that you have things like a built-in dash cam, so if you have an accident, it will record it. You can actually use the cameras remotely, and you can just look on your mobile phone and view through different cameras to see who's wandering around your car. You can actually use your phone to talk to people around your car remotely, because it'll actually relay your voice from your phone to a speaker in the front bumper. It's completely crazy, the technology you get on this car. It's definitely ahead of BMW. I mean, Tesla is a technology company rather than a car manufacturer at the end of the day, even though it makes cars. Do you know what? When you compare the amount of tech you get as standard on the Tesla to that of the i4, it seems like a lot better value. Oh dear, too much Christmas dinner. Anyhow, the starting price of this is low as well. It starts from £43,000. That starts from £52,000. This top of the range performance Model 3, £60,000. This top of the range M50i, £64,000. Now really, the Tesla, you don't have to fit any options to it. The only major one is the super clever automated autopilot thing where the car can drive itself, but you can't do that because it's not legal yet and blah, blah, blah. So it's pointless. As standard, you get a good auto cruise control, lane keeping assist and all that kind of thing. Want that on the BMW? It's part of an options pack. In fact, this car is fitted with £8,000 worth of options. So it's costing over 70 grand for this very car here, whereas this Model 3 Performance is dead standard and it actually still has a bit more tech than that. It's nuts. Now, if you're thinking about changing your car, maybe you're wanting to get a Model 3 or a new BMW i4, maybe some other car for that matter, you need to make sure that you're paying a fair price for the car you're wanting to buy. And to do that, you should go to Carwow. If you click on the pop-out banner up there, follow the link in the description below, you can go straight there. And the good news is that you can now sell your current car through Carwow as well. Our dealers will bid on your car to make sure you get a fair price for that as well. Now, if you want to do that at a later date, you simply Google "Help Me Carwow." It's dead easy. Tell your friends and family about it as well. Here in the back seats, the Tesla is pretty good. There's loads of knee room. The headroom is all right. People over 6 foot will just about have enough space. I like the fact that it feels nice and light and air in here because you've got this glass roof. If I have one complaint, it's the fact that because the batteries are underneath the floor is quite close to the seat base, so you do feel like you're in a sort of squatting position, but there's not much under thigh support as a result. Still, you do have this flat floor, which means that when you have 3 in the back at once, everyone's got lots of space for their feet. Also, the body is reasonably wide, so there is enough shoulder room for 3 people, though it is a bit of a squeeze. What is annoying, the armrest, there's nothing to grab it, so you have to wedge your hand in there, and then when you put your arm there, it's in the cup holders. There's also only a 2-way folding rear seat. You can't get a 3-way of folding, so you can't do any through loading. Another thing that's a bit annoying, ISOFIX anchor points. So when you're trying to fit a baby seat, it's really easy to get it in through the wide door, but trying to find the anchor points is just an absolute faff. However, once you've got a seat in, even the big bulky rear facing seats have plenty of room for manoeuvring, and because of those big rear doors, it's easy to deal with your baby. The ISOFIX anchor points in the BMW i4 are much easier to get at because you have these flip-up covers. However, it's not quite as easy to get the baby seat through the doors in the first place because the door opening is narrower than in the Tesla. But once you do get it in, yeah, it's easier to just lock the seat in place. However, because there is slightly less room back here, when you are dealing with baby, once you've got that seat loaded, it is a little bit more tricky than in the Tesla, and overall it just doesn't feel quite as spacious back here. There's not quite so much knee room, and there's less headroom as well. People over 6 foot will start to touch their head on this roof lining. Also, if you need to carry 3 in the back at once, it just feels narrower, the body, it's more of a squeeze, and it doesn't help that you've got this big lump in the floor. Also, you have the same problem with the Tesla. Because the batteries are underneath the floor, then there's not as much of a gap between the floor and the seat as you would have in a normal 4 Series or a 3 Series, and so there's less under thigh support. It's also a bit dark in here because you haven't got the glass roof. Can't complain about this though. Look, there's a tab holding the armrest out, and BMW covers the cup holders. Yes, you can tell they've been making cars for longer. They thought about these things, and of course you get 3-way split folding seats, so there is through loading. Well done BMW, you pull some back in the end. Now let's move on to practicality and these cars' load lugging capabilities. So the boot capacity of the Tesla is 425 litres, which is pretty decent, and it's a nice big square boot, and there's lots of underfloor storage. Look at all that. Now if you want to carry larger items, you are a little bit scuppered because obviously being a saloon, there's only so much you can actually fit through that gap. If you want to carry longer items in your car, you can fold down the rear seats like that. They do lie pretty flat, and you can obviously slide them through there. Pretty decent. However, not only is the BMW's boot bigger at 470 litres, but because you've got this hatchback tailgate, it's just easier to load. You don't have quite so much underfloor storage as in the Tesla, but look, I can load the seats by leaning through here, and because that hatchback tailgate, look, you can really fit big items in there. So perfect if you haven't bought yourself a washing machine and you need to bring it back to your house. No one buys a washing machine anymore, do they, from the shop? They just do it online, so I don't really know whether that matters. Anyway, the boot's still better. Obviously with electric cars you get a front boot as well. So the fruit on the Tesla, fairly big, look, I've got some charging cables in there. Now let's check out the fruit on the BMW. So, oh, obviously it's underneath this black cover, right? Maybe I can like kind of just put them in there like that. I'm sure that's going to be fine. It's all fine, fine, Yeah, that's the problem once again with this being a car that shares a platform with an internal combustion engine vehicle. It's not bespoke. I better take that out. Now let's talk about batteries, charging and oh God, I still hate that flap. And all that kind of stuff. So you can get the i4 in 2 versions. The standard car has a single motor driving the rear axle. That has 340 horsepower, or you can get this dual motor 4-wheel drive version, the M50, which has 540 horsepower. Both cars have an 81 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now this car, since new, has done about 1,500 miles and it's averaged 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour, which isn't great. And when you take that figure, multiply it by the battery capacity, works out to a real world range of 186 miles. Now the Tesla, since it was new, it's done 19,000 miles and it's averaged 291 watt hours per mile. So put that into miles per kilowatt hour, that's 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour. Now this has a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack. And so that means that the real world range, when you multiply it through, works out to 265 miles on a charge. And of course, you can charge it at normal chargers and the Tesla supercharger network, so there's just more choice. Also, you can get 3 versions of this car. There's the standard range, which is rear drive only with 320 horsepower. It's actually quick enough. Then there's the dual motor version, the long range, which has 430 horsepower, and then this at the top of the range, the performance, with 480 horsepower. Now, one of the great things about the Tesla is that despite all the batteries on board, it's still relatively light for an electric car. It comes in at 1,800 kilos. That BMW though, it's a bit of a porker. It weighs in at 2,200 kilos, so 400 kilos heavier than the Tesla. Why is it that much heavier? Oh, I know, it's probably because it's not a bespoke, built from the ground up electric car. It's having to share its platform with an internal combustion engine model. Now let's compare what these cars are like to drive. I'm going to start with the Tesla Model 3. One thing about this car is that it does have a sporty direct feel to it. The steering is nice and responsive. It does allow you to put the car exactly where you want it and it responds quickly. That means that it does feel quite good fun on a twisty road for an electric car at least. You do notice bumps a bit. So it's not comfy over bumps. I'm going over some now actually, but you do feel it's a little bit bouncy. It's not crashy. It's not uncomfortable, it's just not the most settled. It's a bit better with the smaller wheels. This is obviously on the 20s. If you have the 18s, it is a bit smoother. But you do get a bit of suspension noise as well, I can hear that. Which is a bit of a shame, because otherwise this car is quiet. You've got double glazing on these windows. And it just helps keep out the wind noise, so when you're cruising on the motorway, it's silent, this thing. And it's comfy for cruising along, because as standard you've got that autopilot which will automatically steer and brake to keep you in lane. Though, it is a little bit kind of assertive. If you don't do what it wants and if you try and put in a steering input, it'll disengage, which is a bit of a faff. But it's great that you get it as standard. And on a long distance cruise, this is a good car. The seats don't look expensive, but they are very, very comfortable. And you can rest assured that you have plenty of range. The satellite navigation will actually direct you via Tesla superchargers. That's really, really helpful. The car's also good to drive in town as well. I mean, the visibility in this car is what really stands out for me. I love it. The view you get out of that big windscreen, the low dash, it makes it so easy. I really do like it. Another thing that's good about this car is the regen effect. So if you lift off, it will slow you down to a complete halt. So you can just do one pedal driving and it's not too... Oh, sorry. That's another good thing about this car. You have cameras and sensors checking over you the whole time. It will prevent you from crashing into other cars. It's not infallible, but it does help. Anyway, like I was saying, the one pedal driving is nice and intuitive. It's not too abrupt, though you can't adjust the amount of regen you're getting when you're lifting off. Another thing that's good on this car are the brakes. So I'm slowing. Oh, no, there it is again. I think I was getting too close to the car in front. Slowing for this mini roundabout. They're nice and natural feeling, the brakes, and they're strong. Now the turning circle on this car isn't brilliant. It's 11.8 metres. Will I get round this mini roundabout? Come on! Sorry. There we go. Just about made it. So it's not the most manoeuvrable, but it's not the worst. It's a really nice, easy car to live with in all conditions. Twisty road, motorway, or town. Yeah, that was scary. You can just about judge the gaps. Although that was nip and tuck there. I was wondering whether I was going to actually get squashed by that big truck, but we made it through. Okay, I've now jumped into the BMW. So this particular car is fitted with the adaptive dampers and I've got it set in the comfort setting, and already I notice the suspension is just smoother, more comfortable than in the Tesla. Just seems to deal with bumps better. What's not quite so good though is the steering. Now BMWs are supposed to be the ultimate driving machine, but this car doesn't feel quite as responsive to steering inputs as the Tesla. Also, when you're going fast down a twisty road, it just feels a little bit looser. That's probably to do with the fact that it's 2.2 tons, which is a lot of weight for a car of this size. Another thing I've noticed with this, if I go into sporty mode, there we go, sports boost, there we are, and I put my foot down, I mean, this thing absolutely puts down all its torque instantly. And when it's a bit cold and slippery, then the tyres struggle for grip. Also, you get this jolt like that. Whereas the Tesla, it like builds its power a little bit better, a bit smoother, it bleeds it in. Makes you feel a little less sick. Doesn't snap your neck back quite so hard. Like that. Give me a headache now. One thing that I'm surprised about with this BMW is that it's not quite as quiet when you're going quickly compared to the Tesla. So on the motorway, that's because you don't have double glazing as standard. It's still a quiet car and you get less suspension noise because the suspension just seems a bit more sophisticated in this car. What's not quite as sophisticated though is the brakes. They seem a bit more grabby. Another thing that isn't so good is when you come into town. The visibility is pretty decent, but it's just not as good as the Tesla. I'm missing that huge windscreen, the low dash. This just feels more like a normal car. However, what you can do is alter the amount of regen braking. You can one pedal drive, it stops like the Tesla does, or just hit that and then it will roll to a stop a lot slower. You still get regen, but it's just not the same. It's taking ages to stop. But it's good that you have the option of choosing between the two settings. I prefer in town going for the brake mode. It just gives you more control over the car. One thing that is a little bit annoying about this car when you're driving around town is the fact that the turning circle is 12.5 metres. It's quite a bit more than a BMW 3 Series. I'm going to try and go around this mini roundabout. I imagine I'm going to get into a worse mess than the Tesla. Yeah, oh no. This is gonna really annoy people. I'm gonna have to do a little kind of jiggery pokery thingy here. Yeah, this is mayhem. Sorry. Why is the turning circle so much more than a 3 Series or a 4 Series? They're about like 11.5. This is a whole metre more. Now, one of the interesting things about this car is that it has more power than an M3. And it's certainly more responsive. But it doesn't make the noise like an M3 because it's electric, but BMW have tried to make up for that by working with composer Hans Zimmer, and he's created some special electrifying fun noises. So when you accelerate, you get that whoa noise, which adds to the drama and sounds very futuristic, but ultimately is a little bit silly and pointless. Finally then, it's time to see how quick these cars are from 0 to 60 miles an hour. I'm going to start off with the BMW. So let me set up my specialist timing gear. Here we go, launch control, let's do it. Launch control ready. Oh, struggling for grip. We're off now. Whoa, that feels pretty leery. That was struggling for traction. 4.2, can do better surely. Okay, second attempt, come on BMW, do better. 4.24. It is struggling with grip. Let's jump into the Tesla. Now let's see what this Tesla will do 0 to 60. So let's do it. Just floor the throttle. It's easy. Good traction. Oh, it's flying now. There we go. 3.67 seconds. So effortless, so easy. So the Tesla won that. However, what will happen in a drag race over a standing quarter mile? Which car will come out on top then? You want to find out? Of course you do. Now, I've already filmed that video, so if you click on the pop-out banner up there, I'll follow the link in the description. You can watch my drag race between a Tesla Model 3 Performance and the BMW i4 M50. So then, what's my final verdict? Well, I really like the i4. You know, it's comfortable, it's luxurious, it's got a premium feel to it, and it's quick. Problem is, it's not as efficient as the Tesla, and that really matters with an electric car. Also, you got the supercharger network, which makes it easier to charge this car when you're going longer distances, and it's still a really good car to drive. Plus, you get loads of tech with it. It's better value for money than the BMW, and overall, the Tesla is the better electric car, and that's why it wins this test. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you did, give it a like. If you didn't, let me know some other head-to-head videos you'd like to see in the comments below. Click on those windows there for some more videos, and on that box there to go to CarWow to make sure you're paying a fair price for your next car.